I'll call the January 3rd, 2017 regular council meeting to order and ask those in the audience who would like to join the council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance to please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome to 2017. We've got a relatively short agenda this evening. The first item under special business, Agenda Bill 7288, Eastside Fire and Rescue Strategic Plan. And we're fortunate this evening to have Chief Clark, Chief of EF&R, here with us to chat about where EFR is headed over the next few years. So, Chief, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I appreciate you giving me a few minutes tonight just to go over our strategic plan briefly. I know you've all had it in your packets and had an opportunity to review it. My purpose tonight was to come and share the document because we're very excited over at Eastside and appreciate all the support we got, not only from all of you, but also from the community when we were putting this plan together. Over the course of the last 6 months of last year, we set out to identify what our strategic priorities would be for Eastside Fire and Rescue. And when I say we were talking about the community, not just the members of Eastside Fire and Rescue. So we set together a plan and actually set a schedule, a 6-month schedule, and thought, well, let's put all of our efforts into this and assemble something that matters and that we're going to live out of. And our plan is to live out of this document for the next 3 to 5 years, hopefully more 3 years, and then we'll update it on a regular basis. But what we first wanted to know was what were our strengths, weaknesses, and the opportunities and challenges that may be available to us as an organization moving forward. So we started with 37 internal focus groups with our employee groups, our volunteer groups, our elected officials that sat at the board level. And we asked the questions, just those 4 simple questions. What are our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities and challenges? And we cataloged those, kept a record of it. We slowly moved into a phase where we went out to the public, and we had 5 public meetings throughout our service areas. All of those public meetings, 3 of the 5 were very well attended. 2 of them were lightly attended. The one we had here was I would say it was probably number 3 in attendance, number 1 in participation. We had a lot of great dialogue, a lot of folks that had a lot of interest and suggestions for the plan, and I certainly appreciated that. And we also did an online questionnaire about the SWOT analysis, as I call it, and we had 881 responses to that electronic, which blew me away. I was hoping for 100, 150. And my staff told me that, oh, we should get slightly more than that, so we kind of did an over-under. I said I was hoping for 150, and they almost, what'd they do? Almost 6 times that. They did a great job soliciting and getting the word out. And we encapsulated, we took all of that information and put this into the plan as well. And then in order to facilitate all of the work that was involved in this, number 1, we took all of the staff and I asked that become the top priority for everybody. Of course, we had our regular service that we took care of, but then that their top task for that 6-month period was to put energy into the role of leadership for their area and to start to identify from a strategic level what we need to work on. We took all of that along with the SWOT analysis and we put it into a working committee. And the working committee consisted of a few members of our department from all phases of the department, some operations folks, some administrative folks, some of the leadership. But then we also asked for 3 community members, and we identified, and I really want to thank the 3 of them. And that from the Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank, Corey Walter, who I'm sure all of you are very familiar with. Robin Callahan from the Issaquah School. At this time, she was with the Issaquah School Foundation. Now she's moved up, but she participated. And then Neela Cummings from a North Bend charity. And they provided their expertise as CEOs of nonprofits, and they were invaluable to our process in getting the feedback. And they provided us a lot of great strategic direction and feedback. But that group of about 15 of us sat through a series of meetings over a course of really about 3.5 months charting our way. And we touched base with the board of the directors, maybe, I'm thinking 4 times over the 6 months, keeping them informed, gaining input, and finally in October, getting their approval of this plan. Now, as you read the plan or reviewed the plan, you'll see that we identified first a new mission statement, and that mission statement has 4 central themes to it: excellence, service, dedication, and community. Those 4 terms came out in community meeting after community meeting, focus group after focus group internally. It was very easy to settle on the 4 terms, and it was just a matter of how we put them together. But it was very clear that not only the community, but our membership was interested in excellence and service, and that our membership overwhelmingly was dedicated to the community. And our community members seemed to appreciate when the word dedication came from our focus groups, our internal focus groups, and we shared those externally. So it was very easy to settle on those. We then identified some values and priorities. Again, I'm not going to read them all to you, but I'll just read the summary. Compassionate, innovative, trustworthy, expertise, and professionalism. And of course, we tailor-made some definitions based on the leadership group, that working committee, and of course, board approval eventually on what our values and priorities would be moving forward. And then at some point in this process, it became clear that EFR is a very unique governmental entity, and it is, having only been here almost a year now, I have to compliment, and I continually compliment, the 5 entities that brought this organization together back in 1999, and what you have done over the course of the last 16 or 17 years to keep this partnership together. It's a unique form of government that's simply put together through an ILA. When I say simply, that's simple for me to say because I'm here reaping the benefits of all the hard work of all of you who put it together and have kept it together over the years. But one of the things a theme that came out later in the process with our leadership team when we were talking about this was some kind of unifying message. And it's identified in here as a wicked goal, which is management speak at this point. But the unified commitment is a phrase that we settled on, and there's a few paragraph explanation of what unified commitment was. But what we're identifying that is our wicked goal that our 5 partners, of course, Issaquah, Sammamish, North Bend, Fire District 10, and Fire District 38, our unions, our management team, any stakeholder that is part of EFR, is that we come together and unify and continue to commit to each other that Eastside Fire and Rescue is going to be here into the future, and that we take the next level of commitment now, which means planning together. And when I say planning as if we were one entity rather than 5 separate entities with singular interests within the organization. It's a common theme that came out. It's the hows. How do we get there? And that's why we went into, and of course started to identify our strategic priorities, which starts to set the story, and it makes my job very easy over the next few years. I have strategic priorities to focus on, and I get to keep the workforce in line with those and keep reminding the board and get support from the board, aligning us in the direction of the 5 strategic priorities. And those strategic priorities are meant to help us achieve our overall mission, of course, but keeping in mind that wicked goal of unified commitment, that what we're trying to achieve together in unison, maintaining this unique form of government that is highly efficient for us, provides a very high level of service, and we want to continue to embark on that. And of course, our 5 strategic priorities are employee development, investing in the employees. One of the things that I was tasked with when I was hired was to look at succession planning and the development of our personnel over the long term. And that came through loud and clear from our focus groups and our community focus groups as well, that we have to take care of the employees and invest in the employees and the development of those employees all the way up and down the chain of command, from fire chief on down. And then sustainability. How do we continue to provide an efficient, cost-effective service that meets all the needs of the partner agencies and the community, of course, overall? Life safety is a strategic priority, and all of the service areas that we have and everywhere that we dive in. That's probably the meatiest as far as things to work on, but it's also the one that's easiest for our folks to get their head around. That, okay, yeah, we're here for life safety. The other ones are a little bit more intangible for them, and it's going to take some leadership work, which we're fully capable, and we definitely have the direction from the board and of course from our leadership team to move us in that direction. And then community outreach and participation. Eastside Fire and Rescue has done a good job of being involved in the community, but there are so many more areas where we can get involved in public education and community outreach, and try to prevent those incidents from occurring. Let's keep our incident numbers down through prevention and education rather than waiting for the incidents to occur. And then lastly, our last strategic priority is board development. We have a board that has been, as I gave credit to earlier, that is, many of you have rotated through over the years, have invested and put time and energy into the Eastside Fire and Rescue surviving. But one of the things that we need to develop a little bit more robustly is exactly what that board is, what the role of that board is, the development of the board itself, and the growth of the board if we want to achieve those other priorities of the long-term sustainability. So hopefully we're not recreating the wheel every time we have a rotation on the board. And I definitely want to take a minute and thank the efforts of Paul and Mary Lou over this last year and the support through the strategic plan. The board had a lot of great conversations and not necessarily agreement in the beginning, had a lot of tough questions. Some of our board members are very skilled at asking tough questions. One of them happens to be an Issaquah representative. But Paul specifically always had a way of asking a question that I couldn't answer till the next day. I tried to answer it at the board meeting, but I come back and then it crystallized very clearly for me. And Paul's just one example. Every one of our board members asked several questions in a way that allowed us to come back as a management team and think through what was being said and try to apply that in writing in a way that makes sense to our board. And we thought we wrote it crystal clear so many times. Mary Lou would correct us, and Alan from North Bend. We would have so many corrections, but those were great challenges. And in the past, those types of debates would become confrontational. And that's not what we experienced over the last year. We've experienced growth from having the challenging discussions about where we're heading as an organization. So in summary, I want to once again thank you for your support of Eastside Fire and Rescue. We wanted to share the strategic plan. I plan on reporting out. We are institutionalizing this plan as part of our work product. You should hear from your reps on a regular basis, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or come back at any time to explain where we're heading with this. But this is our guiding document. We'll be reporting out every month in some fashion on the plan. We're in the phase right now of assigning everything out from the plan. We hope to achieve all of it. We'll see, and you can hold me accountable to that as far as how we move forward. But our plan is to see a lot of this implemented over the next 3 years, see a lot of growth within Eastside. When I say growth, I mean depth within the organization and understanding ourselves better so that we can implement these things. And then in 3 years or so, you'll see us going through this process again. So that was a lot. I wanted to give you a good overview. I appreciate your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, that's great. Are there questions for Jeff? What is the one thing that you learned that surprised you the most?
That's a good question, Mayor. The one thing
Well,
that surprised me the most.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be honest. The one thing that surprised me the most was the amount of conversation around the concept of unified commitment. You would, as an outsider coming in, you would assume that there was this unity and commitment, and there certainly was some level of that, but that we had so much emphasis and so much discussion around that concept. I was surprised that it's very clear that that's an awful lot of where the conversation needs to be, but that's probably my biggest surprise. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is a great way to start 2017 as in terms of Eastside Fire and Rescue and where you're headed. If you had to write a headline today on 2017 and what you would like to see on January the 1st, 2018, what would that headline be?
No fires in Issaquah for 2017.
Okay. That's good. Okay, great. Are there other questions of Jeff? Well, thank you very, very much. We're blessed to have you as our fire chief. I would just say Eastside Fire Rescue has, although it's been around for a long time, it has not always functioned the way it is right now. A certain amount of that is because of your leadership and your dedication. It has had ups and downs over the years, but I really like the term unified commitment. We're all in it together as partners. We all have a vested interest, and who really benefits from that are our citizens and in the jurisdictions of our other members. So thanks for coming.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Moving now to audience comments. Citizen comments are an important part of the public process. We take them seriously and factor them into the decisions that we make. Anyone from the public who wishes to comment will have the opportunity to do so. Please direct comments to the whole council and not individuals. While this is not a question and answer session, we will contact you to follow up if needed. If you did not have an opportunity to include your email address, you'll find a clipboard soon on the table in front of me where you can enter that information. When recognized, please use the lectern and speak into the microphone. State your name, address, and any relationship to the city. Limit your comments to 5 minutes, and if you have written comments, submit those to the city clerk. And so I would ask if anyone has signed up to speak this evening.
No one has signed up to speak.
Is there anyone in the audience desiring to speak this evening? Anyone desiring to speak? Third and final call, anyone desiring to speak? Seeing no one in the audience desiring to speak, audience comments are closed, and we'll now move to committee and regional reports, beginning with Mariah Batiste.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No report this evening.
No report for me either.
Paul?
Yeah, real quickly, I'll just touch base on all of my committees. The Council Infrastructure Committee, our next meeting, there hasn't been a meeting since our last council meeting. Our next meeting is Thursday, January 19th at 6:30 here in council chambers. It will be televised live. The full agenda has not yet been set, but, one item we shall be discussing is continuing the conversation about the formation of the Transportation Mobility Board. And Bill, I think you'll be there. I think Stacy's the other member who'll be here. She's not there this evening. But that was a conversation that we left hanging. We have some work to do to get together, and we want to bring it forward to this full council once I think we have more of a consensus among the committee. So that'll be an important item for discussion. Moving on to the Puget Sound Regional Council Growth Management Policy Board. Our next meeting is this Thursday, the 5th of January at 10 a.m. at PSRC headquarters in Seattle. There are a number of items related to the certification of comprehensive plans. But I think the interesting items will be discussions about, they're reworking the framework for the designation of regional growth centers. Now, we are a regional growth center. And I think there's quite, and this group, you might remember last year, we did have some conversations about that. And that, so the framework for designating regional centers is going to be redefined. We've had some input, and that conversation is, we're going to have a discussion about that. There is a working group that's going to be reporting to us. And I think that could have the outcome of that could have a significant impact on Issaquah, or at least the future for the region on how we designate centers and how we work together between centers. We're also going to have a conversation about small cities and the conditional certification of their comprehensive plans, which is also very important, especially to a couple of our neighbors east of here, especially North Bend and Snoqualmie. So interesting conversations at that meeting. The Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, there's been no meeting since our last council meeting, and the next meeting is not scheduled. And the Eastside Fire and Rescue Board of Directors, we've not had a meeting since our last council meeting. Also, our next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January 12th at 4 p.m. at EFR headquarters on Newport Way. I don't have anything to report about that agenda at this point.
Thank you. Tola?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Issaquah City Council Services and Safety Committee is currently scheduled to meet in the Eagle Room at 6:30 next Tuesday. However, the agenda has not been put together yet, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we'll be meeting. I'm assuming we are until told otherwise. The Sound Cities Association Public Issues Committee will meet on Wednesday, January 11th at 7 p.m. in Renton City Hall. We will be covering things such as an update on the Regional E911 Strategic Plan, of which I'm on the committee for. That's a dangling participle, but grammar folks out there will forgive me. All Home Strategic Plan implementation update, Secure Medicine Return update, and EMS Advisory Task Force informational item, and finally an informational item very important to me and I know to everyone here in Issaquah, Mayor's Roundtable on Heroin and Prescription Opiate Addiction. So these are the major items, but there is not expected to be any action items that need to be reviewed by our council ahead of that meeting. King County Growth Management Planning Policy Council, GMPC. We don't have the 2017 calendar yet. And then Regional E911 Strategic Plan Scoping Leadership Group meets Thursday, January 19th, and I will report out after that occurs. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Eileen?
Very small report. As we begin this year to get back into our committees, I'll be attending WIRA 8. That'll be Thursday the 19th. And so far have not heard back yet from King County Conservation District as to what's going on with that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Lou?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council Land and Shore Committee will be meeting this Thursday, January 5th at 6:30 in Council Chambers. Thanks to Bill Ramos for standing in for Stacy Goodman for that meeting. We have 5 items on the agenda: a moratorium update, which should talk about any progress on work plan items. It's a standing agenda item. We have 4 items for action. AB 7050, amending Development Services Department fees. That did come to a council work session in December. There are no new presentation materials with our packet that's already posted, but the committee will be discussing and making recommendations on at least the following items: setting a target for cost recovery, a recommendation to adopt or not adopt the new fee schedule, which excluded positions should be included in cost recovery, schedule of progress reports to council as per a white paper recommendation. The next item will be AB 7270, the 2016 Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Map Amendments. We've broken this agenda bill into 2 parts. The first part we will be dealing with in the January meeting, and we have a second more major portion of it that we'll be dealing with at the next Land and Shore meeting. AB 7215, 9th major amendment to the Issaquah Highlands 2-party development agreement. For Polygon, modification of transfer of development rights. This will be the first deep touch on this one. It was introduced at a previous Land and Shore Committee meeting, and it is a development in the Highlands that is for 200+ housing units. They have purchased 100 additional units and are requesting an amendment to the 2-party agreement to accommodate that. AB 7219, Gilman Lofts, also called the Three Trails location. It's a draft of a development agreement. This is a project currently on Newport Way at the Three Trails location, and this will be the committee's first look at the development agreement. While all 4 of them are for action, it's doubtful that all 4 will get out from this meeting. So there may be 1 or 2 moving forward, but these are fairly large ones. And just a last note, in having filled out your assignment choices for next year, is that there is a chance that the Council Land and Shore may consider doing 2 monthly meetings versus 1, depending on workload, since it looks like some of these items are not able to get out in 1 meeting. So you've already made your choice. It's good. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mary Lou. For the mayor's report, there will not be an executive session held this evening. I'm excited to announce that the Senior Center reopened under city operation today. We had a great turnout, including Councilmember Winterstein and Martz, and 2 former mayors attended, former Mayor Rowan Hines and former Mayor Ava Freisinger. It's great to see such enthusiasm from our community members. I'd like to publicly recognize our city team for their hard work, especially over the holiday break, to ensure continuity of services for our local seniors. We got the keys on December the 31st and opened today on January the 3rd, and it was a Herculean effort by a lot of people over the holidays, but running up to the opening itself. A lot of folks were involved in that whole process. There's more information on the center and programming that is ongoing there at our website, issaquah.gov/seniors. Just a reminder, there is a special council meeting tomorrow morning, our legislative breakfast, where we will have legislators from the 5th and 41st District there to discuss our legislative priorities with them and to get an update from them on what they see going forward. And with that, that concludes the mayor's report. Moving now to the consent calendar, have the accounts payable and payroll for January the 3rd been reviewed?
We have.
For Stacy Goodman as well.
And I saw her email. Thank you. With that, I would ask the clerk to read the consent calendar into the record.
The consent calendar was distributed to council in advance for study. If authorized, council action will occur by single motion regarding the following items. Item A seeks approval of the accounts payables and payroll of January 3rd, 2017. Items B and C seeks approval of the minutes of the council committee work session of December 12th and the regular meeting of December 19th. This concludes the reading.
Thank you. Does any council member desire to remove any item from the consent calendar for consideration under regular business? Seeing none, then.
Move to approve the consent calendar as submitted.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that carries unanimously. Moving now to regular business. The only item under regular business is Agenda Bill 7083, Capital Improvement Plan 2017 to 2022. Jen Olson, our Director of Finance, will be introducing this item. Jen, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, Happy New Year. The purpose of this item tonight is for the council's consideration of the 2017-2022 Capital Improvement Plan. This plan is to be considered a placeholder document. In 2016, there was no formal budgeting process that took place prior to the 2017 budget development. The 2017 budget does include some capital project allocations, segments of some multi-year capital projects to ensure that those projects with significant funding, such as grants or bond support, kept moving forward. There is a proposed revised motion from the agenda bill, and that motion is identified here in the presentation materials, but what I'd like to do is go through a brief presentation of the placeholders CIP and then answer any questions of the council. So the 2017 through 2022 CIP, some highlights that are included in this plan are capital projects under the technology and network systems. There is budget allocations authorized for continued Munis software, software update for the Trackit software, which is used by Development Services Department, and then various network and system improvements. Under public safety, there is a capital outlay authorization for 2 new police vehicles, as well as a security camera update or upgrade in City Hall. For Parks and Recreation, Central Park Pad number 1 is a project that will continue to move forward starting in 2016 with some capital authorizations in 2017. However, the administration is waiting for bid alternates that may change this project that would be brought for the council when we receive those bids. Confluence Park is also budgeted in this capital plan, as well as the skate park. Under the transportation section, we've got a multi-year project over the next 2 to 3 years for the Southeast 62nd Street Extension Project. Design work for the Newport Way, the section between Maple and Sunset. Continuing the street overlay program is an annual capital outlay, and then complete streets. And through the 2017 budget deliberations, this was a request of the City Council to expand that list of projects. For our utilities of water, sewer, and stormwater, we have a project and improvements related to the South Cove and Greenwood Point, and that is for the water and sewer system improvements as well as the takeover of those metered accounts. The Mount Hood and Wildwood Reservoir refurbish project, and the Pickering area sewer improvements. And then for our capital equipment, there are a number of replacement trucks, heavy equipment, and trailers that have been identified in the capital plan. So as we talked through the 2017 budget development cycle, the operating budget development cycle, the capital budget needs improvement. And administration committed to improving the capital budget development process. And so the proposal for going forward is that in 2017, at the next council meeting, that we would start to kick off and with those capital budget improvements. A timeline is currently in the works and almost completed, and so that would help us to understand that pathway forward. First, a capital budget policy needs to be updated, and so that is the first activities that is proposed that the council will consider with regards to capital budgeting. And then, of course, improving the CIP, the Capital Improvement Plan development process. And that includes increased involvement of all city departments and the city council, implementation of the Munis module called Project Ledger. So that is the tool that we would use to get the budget into a database. And then, of course, consideration of the ICMA assessment and recommendations for capital budgeting. And the most important thing is better engagement with the community. And so again, there is a proposed revised motion with regards to this interim capital improvement plan, and that is for council consideration, and I would be happy to answer any questions of the council.
Are there questions of Jan? Paul?
The timeline, which you didn't get into any details, I think what's most important in my mind for 2017, the timeline of developing the next one, is that it is, we adopt a timeline that gives us the best chance to complete this process prior to the budgeting effort later in the year.
Yes, you will see in the timeline that is the case, is that we're looking at the first half of the year by the end of June, where we're going to start and kick this off in January, but ultimately that we would have the capital budget completed by the end of June, maybe into July. Now that will overlap with some operating budget work, but capital budget, that process comes first. That's in the beginning of the year. And you'll see that in the proposed timeline that we'll be bringing to you.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions of Jan?
Motion?
Yes.
Ready? Mr. Mayor, I move to receive the interim 2017-2022 CIP as a placeholder while capital budget policy and the 2018-2023 CIP are updated and developed under improved processes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Additional questions or discussion? Mary Lou?
I just wanted to thank Jen and the staff that worked today and came up with the revised motion. I think this is really reflects where the council is right now and what our intent is. And so I thank you very much for the work that you did on this today. And I'm in support of the agenda bill.
Other questions or discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor of receiving the interim 2017 to 2022 CIP as a placeholder, while capital budget policy and the 2018 to 2023 CIP are updated and developed under improved processes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that carries unanimously. Moving now to good of the order. Does anyone have anything to offer under good of the order this evening? Seeing no one, as I previously mentioned, there is no executive session. We are adjourned at 7:36.
Last year you did it. No, I was going to say.